Let's talk about the camera gear I use to film my real estate videos. If you're new to my channel, I make cinematic property tours. This is a sample of some of the shots I like to use in my videos, and I'll show you what equipment I use to achieve this. I like wide, establishing shots that really sets the scene. I like to use drones too to establish the scene whenever possible. I like really smooth slow motion. I always try to include movement to add interest. If there's something to point out, then I like to get in tight on the details. I take advantage of my ultra-wide lens, but I also like the compression from a telephoto lens. And of course, there's always some walking narration. Okay, so let's get started. The camera I use is the Canon EOS R. It's in my hands now, so I'm filming with my iPhone. Don't mind the drop in quality, but this is a very capable camera for self-recording real estate videos like I do. I really like it because of this flip out screen so that you can see yourself as you're filming. Super handy for framing so you can confidently convey the message you want to convey. It has a very reliable face tracking autofocus, so when you're moving around in the frame, it manages to keep track of where your eyes are. I've actually never been let down from the autofocus for face tracking. Even when you turn your head and you turn back, it manages to keep track of your face. The flippy screen is also a touch screen, so you can manipulate the controls without having to walk around to the back of the camera every time. It's a very good camera for YouTube. If you're filming in 1080p, which I do for almost all my videos, it's more than enough. If you want to film 4K, then this one probably isn't for you because of the crop factor. Let's move on to lenses. This is my workhorse lens. This is the 15 to 35 f2.8 from Canon. It's incredibly wide at 15 millimeters, which is crucial for those tight spaces like a powder room or a small little foyer. And then it goes up to 35 millimeter, which is really nice when you're doing the walking talking shots, the walking narration shots. Let me show you the difference between what 15 millimeters is like on this lens versus the widest a standard lens can go, which is 24 mil. A real big plus with this lens is that it has image stabilization built right into the lens. For an f2.8 lens, that's not very common. I cannot think of another lens that has that. So when you're walking around or when there's a bit of jitter in your gimbal, this lens helps minimize some of that camera shake that you would see. It's an f2.8 lens, which means that it gathers a lot of light. So I can keep the ISO down when I'm doing darker shots. Also, it can blow out the background so you get that nice blurry background effect. The second lens I use about 5% of the time is the 35 millimeter macro. I really like the macro feature on this because it allows you to focus the lens much closer to the subject, which gives you incredible detail. And if I'm filming a house and it has something unique that I want to point out, I'll get in tight with this lens to point out those features. A regular lens just can't focus that close. Also, the 35 millimeter perspective is really nice for those walking narration shots. It keeps the right distance from me to the camera, and it still shows enough of the property so you can see what I'm talking about. This is an f1.8 lens. Before I said the workhorse lens was an f2.8. Well, this one gathers even more light and it allows me to blow out the background even more. And if I'm really filming in a place where light is really challenging and dark, I would reach for this lens first. The last thing I want to point out about this lens is that it also has built-in image stabilization into the lens. You don't really see that a lot in these prime lenses, so that's a really nice benefit. The next bit of kit that makes an appearance in a lot of my videos is this DJI Mini. This is the smallest drone they make. and they market it as being under 250 grams. This is important because I'm not an expert on this, so don't quote me, but apparently there's a bylaw that says if you're flying a drone and it's under 250 grams, you don't need a drone pilot license. I don't have a drone pilot license, so that's a big deal to me. This really is the game changer. Having drone footage in your videos, in your photography, that elevates your videos. This really helps establishes your scene. Where are you? What's the context? Seeing the property amongst its surroundings, that gives your viewers a better understanding of the neighborhood and the property. I definitely wouldn't call this essential, but it does help a lot to elevate your videos. Let's talk about the gimbal. I use the WEEBILL 2. This is the latest generation in the WEEBILL line. It holds more weight, it holds a bigger camera. Big deal for me since I upgraded to the Canon. But this would be essential. You cannot make real estate property tours without steady footage. Nobody wants to watch your shaky video. I use this a lot for all the B-roll that you see. Maybe 100% of the B-roll was taken with a gimbal. I use this a lot for the walking narration shots. If I have a friend help film for me, he'll hold this and I'll teach him how to use it in 20 minutes. Okay, next up we have the slider. This is a motorized slider. It's controlled from an app on my phone. I can control the speed. I can control how quickly it ramps up to full speed. Does it go continuously or just one round? Very important when you're filming yourself. If you're not filming yourself, you don't need a motorized slider. Let me show you a short snippet of a video where I used footage from this slider to convey my story. There's no countertop space to do much with once the drying rack is up. I can't even fit my microwave anywhere, which is why it's all the way over on the far wall. Next we have the tripod. Pretty self-explanatory what it does. Keeps your camera steady so that you can talk to it. My only comment is that there are cheap tripods and there are expensive tripods. The end result won't look too different to your viewers. They won't know what type of tripod you used, but it will make your filming experience a little bit more enjoyable. You won't have to fiddle too much with a nice tripod. It'll be lighter, so it's easier to carry around. This has 4 legs that extends, which if I want to extend it up and down, doesn't seem like a big deal when you're setting it up once, but if you're setting it up for various shots all day, maybe you want a 3-legged tripod, so it's just less to do. Let's move on to audio. I saved it for last, but arguably one of the most important because audio can be more important than the video. If people can't hear you, if there's too much background noise and they don't want to watch anymore, that would be a big problem for your video. What I use are these Saramonic wireless transmitters with a lav attached to it. There are 2 transmitters and 1 receiver, which is really nice if you want to do some dialogue on camera. The distance is great. This helps you film without your audio quality dropping off. As you get further and further away from the camera, you can hear that the audio just falls off. The microphone on the camera is not strong enough to pick it up, but keeping the microphone right here by your mouth the entire time gives you that consistent audio. I specifically chose this Saramonic kit because it came with 2 transmitters and 1 receiver, so that I can have 2 people on camera and we can have a dialogue with very clean audio. What I'm filming with now that I'm using to shoot this video is a shotgun microphone. That means it sits on top of the camera. It's an MKE 400 from Sennheiser. They allow you to shoot run and gun style. You don't have to mic anybody up. You just turn on the microphone and you film. My only comment is there are a lot of times when I turn on the camera, but I forget to turn on the microphone. So I've recorded a lot of video with no audio. Some of the newer microphones They turn on automatically with your camera. That's a very nice benefit. If I ever upgrade from this, that's a feature I must have. Last but not least is what I use to edit, which is the 2021 MacBook Pro, 16 inches so that I can get a nice working space. The new M1 chip it's amazing. I was coming from a 2013 MacBook Air. I had so much trouble scrubbing the footage from drone videos, but this one just powers through without any hiccups. Battery life, incredible. I can easily go 2-3 days of just normal work without having to charge. I would highly recommend this for anyone who edits on Final Cut Pro.